Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Renewables Podcast. Before we start today's show, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, where you get automatically notified when another one of our episodes comes out, then we really appreciate you heading over to YouTube or Spotify to do that. We've also got a little members area for Spotify where you can pay to support the podcast and you get a couple of episodes before anybody else. We'd really appreciate you heading over and making that small contribution if you can. And thank you to everybody that already has. But today's episode is a little bit of a look into generating new business into 2026, things that we're doing as businesses to reduce cost and innovate around the way systems work. And we've touched on the whole AI app building before, so we're going to go into there because there's been some, speaking for myself, some big progress on that. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing, Mark?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Really well, and excited for this conversation because it's top of our list of business priorities at the minute, trying to streamline what we're doing and grow that sales pipeline as well. I think it's going to be a good one for people listening because it's a common theme that crops up for all of us, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, all the business influencers out there often say with businesses, the biggest trap you can fall into, which I am probably only a month or two getting out of this trap, is that a lot of trades businesses try to be a trades business and rely on word of mouth. And, obviously we both produce digital content. Not everybody does that, but kind of that word of mouth, maybe, a banner up at a football, your local cricket club or something like that. And people get by with that. But what a lot of these people say, whether or not you trust them or not is a different thing. But what the kind of general idea is that every business is a sales business first, and then after that you are your sales business also then to create those sales installs. For us, solar and battery; for others, air source heat pumps; for others, hydrogen boilers, wind turbines, fuse boards, whatever it is. You're a sales business first, and the only way to grow is to try and grow that sales side of things. And that's tricky when you are trained to be the second part of that, which is an electrician or a plumber or a builder or a plasterer or a software engineer. You default to being really good or hoping to be really good at that delivery stage, but getting the sales right and bringing those leads in is so important. And I'm quite happy to admit that's been a real challenge for me, trying to pivot from being a sparky and hopefully a good one to actually being a business owner and generating leads and converting those leads into sales. That's really tricky for me. I don't know how you find it.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the problem, isn't it? You need that sales pipeline. Without it, the business dies ultimately, doesn't it? You need to have that volume of inquiries coming through and then convert a percentage of that. And when you if you're a jobbing electrician, as most of us start out, you can rely on that word of mouth. You can have a number as it was in the Yellow Pages or with a little local magazine and eke out sort of building a business reputation and getting going and all the rest of it. But when you're in the world of heat pumps and solar PV, you generally need a team just due to the size and scale of the things we're fitting. You can't lug those 100-odd kilo batteries around on your own with the best will in the world. Even the strongest among us struggle with it. And to do that, you need to scale a team, and you need that volume of inquiries coming through to be able to do it. It's the lifeblood of your business, and whatever method you choose to go about that. Like I use digital content creation through YouTube primarily to generate the majority of the business we do. There's other methods out there as well, still in the real world and advertising on the radio and whatever you pick, you need to see a result from that. And it's the processes behind it, how you deal and manage with customer expectations. We found a huge learning curve with that in the realms of solar that doesn't exist in wider electrical work, where you can maybe have a bit longer in your client relationships, getting those quotations out to what people expect with this stuff. I think it's quite a demanding marketplace from the consumer's side, certainly in the residential world. And it really is a challenge, and one we've got no real solution to, I'll be honest, in our business. It's one work in progress. We're dealing with it day to day.
Yeah, I think some of the content I shared on my Instagram today has been around the fact of being able to pivot quite quickly. And smaller companies are more like little speedboats on the water where they can turn left and right and stop and start and do what you like. And as the company grows and you've got bigger overheads, you've got maybe bigger projects that are taking longer to complete, you're more like a tanker trying to go left and right. And so the opportunity of being a smaller business, as I deem myself to be, having 8 of us, is that we can kind of pivot left, pivot right, and just see what works a little bit. We haven't got 50 people doing 3, 4, 5 jobs a day and all this sort of stuff. And solar is, let's admit, it is a bit of a gold rush period at the minute with a lot of people entering it, and that means there's not necessarily a scarcity of work because we talked to Mike Jones about the abundance mindset of there's loads of work out there, and there is if you can target it. But it does mean that those regular channels that you use to generate leads that you might have done for the past few years can sometimes become a little bit saturated with the same people delivering the same message. And it might be that those people that are delivering those messages have taken inspiration from yourself, myself, other people that are producing content online and seen it work, and so have decided to do it as well. And all power to them to do that. We've all got a message to spread, and that's an open market. We're all there to kind of compete with each other to a degree. But what I wanted to talk about today was trying to work out what works for you and the challenges that solar as a job sort of introduces when you're looking to fill your calendar for maybe multiple people. Because solar jobs, there can be maybe 3 to 5 days on a domestic, depending on the scale. Might be less if it's a really quite a small one. And that means that you have to generate a lot of work, and you're not getting, like you've just alluded to, Mark, the return business necessarily, because you're not going there because they're building an extension and they want a load more sockets putting in and all that. Or if you're a plumbing and heating engineer, you fitted a heat pump, you've fitted the radiators, you might take you a week to do it. They're not ringing you up next week because they're wanting another heat pump at that property, another load of radiators at that property in most cases. So it's trying to work out how you keep that workflow going and the speed as to which you need to get the quotes out, because people are just hungry for those, hungry to sign up with a company, and there just doesn't seem to be any breathing time available on that.
Yeah, I mean, in our business, we've made a choice to stick to sort of a project. If we're talking a solar project a week, and that's been a decision we've made. We were kind of at the level where we could have done 2 a week. We had those inquiries coming through. We'd have needed another couple of people in the business to sustain it. But we decided that not to do that. I think that was kind of opposite to the process you've been on, where you have taken that step and scaled to that point to then feed that beast you're making for yourself in a way. So we've got the luxury of time with that. We only really need to sell a project a week to keep that forward rolling work. And we usually exceed that. So that's when it gets tricky, where people then won't wait for you because your lead time's too long. And I think you've had that in the past, Sam, with your business as well, where you had a waiting list and everything seems to be going so well because of that, but it can draw you into a false sense of security. And I think we're very much in our business in that place right now. And I'm sure it's something we'll keep revisiting about, maybe scaling to bigger teams and the rest of it. But there's no real desire from us to do that. I think, as we've spoken about on the podcast before, it's hard to keep the quality levels you're happy with. And we seem to be drawing the consumers towards ourselves that we like working for. So we're in a good space with it. So that's kind of how we do it. YouTube feeds the inquiries in. We convert a lot of them because people are generally sold on us already. It's less about price and more about quality. But where it gets tricky is if you're in the kind of volume side of things and you're needing to draw in 3 or 4 projects a week, say, which still isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. There's companies out there that'll be doing 3 or 4 a day, maybe more. It's still a relatively small amount, but for a small business, that's quite a lot of solar leads to generate and then convert. When you're looking at maybe 20-30% is conversion rate to your inquiries, it's a lot of proposals to get out. It's a lot of legwork behind that, and the temptation can be, when you're in that process, feeding the work to your team to go and deliver, to start eroding at your price. And we've had conversations in the SR bootcamp this week flaring up around that. People been a bit dejected because they've not won projects they've priced on price a lot of the times, and you can start to look at your margin and, well, we could reduce a bit there and do that, but that's a slippery slope when you've already mapped out your business costs and what you want to charge. It's something I wouldn't really want to be doing. Obviously, market forces can sometimes dictate that is the only option if you want to survive. I'm not saying we won't ever make that decision in that position, but that would be an option of last resort for me. I think working on your conversions is the first place to start. So making sure you're as been effective as you can in the speed you're getting responses back to customers, even if it's not prices, but make them feel they're in that conversation. So you're drawing that relationship to them, and you can use AI for that. We certainly do with ServiceMate and such, that and our own AI box, which we'll speak about later on, where that kind of client engagement feels like it's already happening when maybe it isn't. It's a bit of an illusion to a degree. To buy yourself a bit of time while your design team look at it, and then maybe ballparking prices with people to try and keep them engaged in that process as well, where you're not proposing a system, but you're saying this is a broad expectation of what you might want to pay. And that can filter out a lot of the time wasters and tire kickers who are never going to work with you anyway because they're just looking for a bottom level price. You instantly push them away, so you're not wasting your time proposing, and your conversion rate goes up as a result. But that's just our observations as a really small company in the sort of solar space. We have done a little trial with Meta ads recently. I thought I'd give that a whirl. We've done Google ads forever in our local area. That's really just to try and reach consumers who take the easy hit going on Google when they're 30 miles from us, making sure we're top of those results. That's not an expensive strategy, I don't think. So we've tried that with Meta ads recently. So we'll see how that goes. And that was really just an attempt to draw clients closer to us. So the drawback to the YouTube and digital stuff is we travel everywhere, which is good and bad. We started off this year down in central London. This week we've been in Brighton. We're in East Yorkshire, for those who don't know. It's a long way from home, and you've got the issue of staff being away from family, travel expenses, all the rest of it. It's not ideal. So we're trying to make a determined effort to get closer to home more often. Whether it plays out or not, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting listening to you talk about that, because I remember when this podcast first started, and obviously you'd been starting to put more and more content out about your renewables journey and everything like that. And I think it's fair to say a lot of your work was still fairly local in terms of the renewables side of things. And obviously, we have for a long time worked all over the country, and it is one of those where when you're doing the YouTube side, YouTube is one of them where you can make long form content, and people that really want to get the right install, the right equipment, will watch a 30-minute, 40-minute video about an install, 20-minute, whatever it is, about an install. That's one type of customer, and they are pretty good customers to try and attract, because, like you've mentioned, they can almost pre-sell the installer and the equipment, and then that actually saves you time in your business, because they almost come to you with a shopping list. The difference is, as again you've alluded to, over time, when the mass adoption kind of phase happens, and we have seen an increase in that starting to happen, I think, and is that more people want it because they are told that it's a good thing to do and that it's going to save them money, and they've got a bit of savings, they're going to put that into it, but they maybe haven't got the interest or the appetite to watch a 30-minute video on a type of panel and a type of inverter and why you've done it and this. And whilst geeks like ourselves would love to do that, they just want to get 3 prices and choose maybe the middle one or the cheapest one, depending on their budget, and go with that. And I think that's where the challenge comes when you aren't. I know for ourselves, the best jobs that we get through, the highest level of conversion is always YouTube, because they've invested in you or in me, as for my business. And so, we have a little, virtual high five, because a lot of the people that work for me are in different parts of the country. You have a virtual high five when a YouTube lead comes through, because we know that whilst it's never guaranteed, it's more likely to go ahead. And then we have other things, that other sort of lead generation avenues as well, and some of them are extremely low conversion, mainly because we're up against other companies that are effectively just pumping out a set package price, and we're trying to do a proper design for it. And it takes Reese maybe a couple of hours to put that together, but then if that inquiries come in over the weekend, that customer has almost had an instant email back to say, it's going to be 10 grand, and we've priced it and it's easily 15. And you think, how are they doing it for 10 grand? And maybe they've got business savings within that, but that's a hell of a lot of business savings to be pumping it out at 10 grand rather than say 15. So it is very, very tricky. And I think as the business scales, as we've tried to do, and we've come up and down, left and right, trying to scale it, and we're still not, we're not where I want us to be. We're on that journey, but is that the more and more leads you get in, the more and more disappointment you get. But you've got to be ready to be disappointed a good chunk of the time, because There'll be those customers that were never intending to go with you. And what I've kind of realized is that, yes, we can try and improve that conversion rate by, doing the videos with the proposals. We've got a lot of preset videos to tell them about the process, where I'm literally stood in front of that oval sign over there, telling them about the process, how long it's going to take, why they should choose those, blah, blah, blah. And in reality, that might shift the dial a couple of percent. We might get, in every 100, we might get another 1 or 2 that decide to go with us. And so in my business, we're kind of looking at, well, if our conversion rate is set at 10, 20%, whatever it is, and it's probably somewhere there, how the only way to increase the number of jobs that we're winning is to try and bring in more quality leads from YouTube, because they're our favorite ones, but also the volume of leads to try and get that. If we get 100 leads coming in, that's 10 more jobs that we've got. But that's a hell of a lot more work that we've got to do to try and capture those 10 leads. So it's a constant juggling act, trying to work out what to prioritize. And you mentioned there about price. I've literally just come from a chat with our senior designer, Alex, about this job that I really want to win it. It's a horrible job. It is truly a horrible job in terms of the panel layout. It's probably going to be the ugliest system that we've ever installed. And the customer knows that, because I've said it to his face. But he can't see the roof from the ground, and it's not going to be the prettiest, but it's going to be a hell of a generator. And I really want to win it. But the other price that he's had, we just can't get anywhere near it. And I had a look and I said, Alex, we're not going to do this, but just for my own sanity, just chop, I think it was 5%. I think it's 5% off our margin. Just chop that off. Let's see where we get to. And it takes £2,000 off the price. And I was thinking, Jesus. And if we hadn't have done that exercise, and Alex said, I think we could, if he'd have said, look, I think we can win this if we knock a bit off our margin. And he goes, if he was to say, if we knock it 5%, I reckon we could win this. I'm thinking, 5%, it's not that much. It's £2,000 off that price. I'm thinking, that's a lot of money we've got to find in savings in the company to try and capture what we've lost on the profit. So I'm like, we have to stick to our guns with it. And I think that's where the difficult decision comes, when you have to go, we've done everything we can to make this job worth our while, whilst also trimming some bits off that we maybe don't need on that specific job. So yeah, it's a bit of a ramble what I've got on there, but it's just, I think you have to be prepared for disappointment if you start to really push forward, and like what we're trying to do, and desperately trying to get the 2 jobs per week. And that can be disappointment in not hiring the right people, potentially. We've been quite lucky with not doing that so far. Disappointed in people that you're really invested in, have really good phone conversations, them not going ahead. But keep an eye on that conversion rate, and also what costs you face as a company to bring all that extra work in. And if actually doing 1 job a week would actually be more profitable than trying to push to do 2 to 3, because you're bringing so much more risk into your business as well by doing that number.
It is. There is a lot more risk there. And once you start chopping away at your price on one project, you find yourself doing it on the next. I've been there in the past with our business when we did scale. We've been bigger than we are now in the past in normal electrical contracting terms. And you start doing it because you're feeding that beast and you're wanting to grow and keep growth centre of what you're doing. But you just find yourself doing it more and more. That's the some parts of it, and that's what we're trying to avoid in the way we're setting our business up in today's iteration of itself. We are being quite strict with that, and I'm a bit brutal with customers. Sometimes we had an inquiry this weekend again and popped that ballpark price over of a rough layout of the kit that this customer wanted, and he's like, oh, can you do something on the price? I've had this, that and the other. It's like, well, we can take bits of kit out if you want. That'll drop your price. We'll take a battery out. We do things like that, but outside of that, not a lot. That's just what we cost. And most customers don't engage at that level, we find. That's the raw truth. They're not really interested in that. They move on with whatever company they're going to use to fit the kit. But this particular one entered into that conversation, and I think we've just about converted that to a sale today, which has been nice to see. That sticking to your guns on that does sometimes come out in your favour. It's rare. I'm going to sit here and pretend otherwise. But it can still happen, and customers will take that education piece now and then around the quality and the stuff you are trying to sell them and the reasons for it and all the rest of it. And they will take bits of kit away where maybe sacrifice a battery module to use you rather than another installer. So the net cost to them is the same. They're getting a little bit less kit, but they feel more comfortable at that level. And that's a decision for the customers to then make, see the value in that as a proposition. And it's really difficult, I think, when you're trying to scale that beast with the right leads. And the meta ads one is the one that got me, because I see that all over with these consultancies that crop up where they're saying we can scale your business with all these meta ads, and they're interviewing people they've worked with. And I sit there and think, well, that's just a load of rubbish. I don't believe any of that. But then I spoke to one of the guys who I know at a personal level, and he's used it and it's worked brilliantly for him. So I then know that actually does work. So I thought, well, I'll try it myself, thinking as an electrician, we can do everything. We don't need to use consultants and specialists. I'll figure meta ads out all on my own. That didn't work at all. The spend went through the roof. I didn't really know how it worked. So we've worked with a local consultancy who were helping us a little bit. And we're seeing a bit of traction in the number of inquiries. But I'll be honest, we've not converted any yet. It's still very much in the realms of price is key. And they're not really interested in our quality and YouTube content and stuff. It's been a different experience for us.
Yeah.
And it's taking time dealing with those inquiries as well. But yeah, it's a journey we want to go on for maybe a different reason to you. We're not looking to scale, we're looking to be more local. That's the thrust behind what we're doing with that.
Yeah, and I've actually got a campaign. I've been, I'm actually signed up with a company to do some of this meta ads side of things. Again, just trying to be that little speedboat, pivoting left and right. I'm thinking, well, YouTube is great, and potentially that YouTube content will support some of the meta ads side of things in terms of people Googling us afterwards or things suggesting our longer form content or our Instagram content or whatever, trying to bring that together and show that quality to more eyes. I want to give that quality to more eyes. So we haven't gone live with it yet. I've just been approving a load of the adverts and everything and getting on the back end side with this company set up, so that those leads can come straight through into the business. But again, like you've just mentioned, Matt, I know they're going to be completely different types of leads. So we've had to relook in our business, how do we get to these people quickly after they've inquired? Because I spoke to the company, and again, they've said that they told me what the average spend was with these other companies. I said, look, I don't want to be one of these companies that is knocking these jobs out for a pittance, because that's what these customers are expecting. Like, these are generally our kind of range of pricing, and they've said that towards the top end of my range, that is what the average spend is for most of the people on their program. Now, whether that's a load of bull, we'll have to wait and see, and it has to work for me. But I've basically given them a budget. I said, look, I've got this pot of money. I'm going to draw down from the company's savings, so I'm not going to deem it as a running cost to the business. I'm going to use this pot of money to effectively be a bit of an investment and just see if it works. So we've not factored the cost of this yet, because I've not actually spent anything yet, into the business's running costs, because I'm like, I want to see if this works. That might be the completely wrong way to do it. I'm no business expert, but in my mind, I'm thinking I'm drawing down from the company's savings to put it into this. I want to see if we can scale up to do it. And that's going to be what I found is, and what we've started to look at doing more, is getting out once they've had an average price. That's what we're kind of calling our average pricing, which is based on a local. I think we've done it on like a 30-mile radius around York. Again, we've done it again to be a little bit more local as well. Zoomed it right down so that I can get to those people and go, this is your average price. If they're happy with that, then effectively go and see them, because that's when I can really start that personal trust. And I think what I really wanted to talk about on this, and what the experience I've had today, is that the digital side is fantastic. It's why I'm sat here now in terms of having this business. It's all been done through digital advertisement to a degree, through YouTube and things, but there is that personal touch and that human touch that I think is still very important in this digital world. Today, after I finished a job in Leeds, I just thought, I looked around, and weirdly, all these semi-new builds had 14, 16 panels on. was thinking, wow, these are some revolutionary type of new builds having all these panels on. So I thought, I finished an hour early. I'm just going to walk around and just knock on people's doors, explain what I've just worked around the corner for one of the neighbours, give them a business card. Not trying to pressure sell. I'd feel so cringe trying to do that anyway. So and some of them politely slammed the door in my face and said not interested, and others were chatting to me about their EV charger, only giving them 3.6 kilowatts when they know that it can give them 7, and all this sort of stuff. It's not stuff I'm going to retire on, in terms of if it becomes a job, but getting in front of people and giving them a business, giving them a face, and it having my number on and the company's number and a link to our social media and everything, and just having a chat. And I've already had one phone call from a lady that I briefly spoke to at the door and gave her a business card, and she said, "Yeah, we've moved into this property. We're actually the third owners of this property, so we know nothing about the solar. We don't know if it's working. We don't know if it's safe." And so they were having a discussion tonight after I told them how much it'd be for us to come and do a service on it, to see if they want to go ahead with that. And I worked it out that I think I knocked on 30 doors and rung 30 bells, and 3 people would actually have a conversation with me about something. That being one of them. Yes, it was a phone call afterwards, but I'm kind of including that in the numbers. So that's like a 10%. So I'm thinking, right, well, I've knocked on all these doors. It took me less than an hour. And it was in a really local little area. So if any of them talk, they'll all have, received that. And it might go no further, or I might get a call in a year's time. You just don't know where this stuff goes. But they've seen me, they've met me, they've got a face to put to the company. I was there in my, my Snickers trousers. I wasn't there in like a greasy suit with my hair slicked back or anything like that. Hopefully they felt that they could trust me, apart from that one guy that slammed his door in my face, but never mind, we'll forget about him. And so I think there is a place for a personal touch. And so where in my business trying to kind of walk that tightrope between getting out there into the digital world, which is a massive opportunity, but also not just being a company that just feeds them a kind of package price and they either want it or they don't, and try and have that more design edge to ourselves. And the thing that I found is that speed is one of the biggest things, and that's one of the hardest things to scale up to do and keep the quality.
Yeah, it is, both in terms of managing the inquiries and delivering the projects. And
yeah,
you've made a great point around the real world there, and I've not been brave enough to knock the doors as you have, but we do put scaffold banners up, and we've got a little board that we put at the end of the drive, and it's amazing actually, the people who wander past who are interested in what you're doing on the neighbours' houses, and they'll stand and have a conversation with you, and it is an opportunity to try and explain and potentially sell. And we have worked on neighbouring properties through that process. In the last 2 or 3 years, I can think of 3 or 4 examples where that's been a thing. So remembering the basics of the real world is important. You've not had to really pay for that lead generation of a sort, aside from the cost of maybe your scaffold banner or whatever. It's a free opportunity. And then it's having the confidence in your team when they're there maybe more than you are to deal with those potential inquiries as well, and have those conversations with people in the street. Because I know with Matty and Nathan, when they want to get up on the roof and they want to get home, that's going to be not top of their priorities. So it is a buy-in across your team when you're making those kind of levels. You want them to represent you in the right way of that. But yeah, it's a great way of trying to get sales through the activity of just doing work. I say just doing work, it's hard work, but you know what I mean? It's like, it is an opportunity there that you shouldn't discount. We can get drawn into this digital world really easily if I'll just spend, I don't know, $5,000 on MetaReds and I'll see all the returns from that. It's such an easy thing to do, isn't it? Like, spend the money and have someone else create you something, and the leads roll in, then it's on you to convert them. Whereas going knocking the doors, that's you making yourself feel uncomfortable in front of people, I imagine. You didn't really want to be stood there selling solar on a doorstep. But, you've gone and done it and seen a return from that. And maybe next time you do it, it'll feel less uncomfortable. And before you know it, you'll be knocking every door in York.
Yeah, so get ready, guys. If you recognise his face knocking on your door, then don't slam it in my face. But yeah, after the first couple, and luckily that guy that did slam the door in my face was one of the first ones. I thought, am I doing the right thing here? But after those first few, I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I get in my van in 10 minutes and I'll have my cup of tea. Like if I've generated work, that's great. If I haven't, that's fine. It wasn't out of absolute need. I just thought the opportunity is there, and let's do it. But the other part of this that we wanted to chat about was looking at. We're not going to do a full section on costs within the business because there's probably another full podcast in that. But one of the costs that I've been really conscious of is the day-to-day kind of apps and things that as a company we use, and dashboards and things that we use in the business, that these software companies seem to, there's some really good ones. I know ServiceMate is a really good one and is well priced. Simpro is really good, but fuck, it's so expensive. And so I've been doing something about that over the past 6 months really, but I had a bit of a hiatus on it because I got so peed off with trying to build this app that I gave it a bit of a rest. But I finally finished that. Well, it's never finished, but I've finally got it to a point where it is very, very useful, and it is we've cancelled our field subscription now, and so we're using that on site to collect the data for the jobs. The guys can see the schedule. They're able to see the weather for the job over the next 7 days, and that's linked to where the job is. They're able to see the travel time. They're able to see if it's a working away job or a local job, what type of job it is. Even filling out like DC test forms, I've just got to physically put the forms on there now, but the builder is done. Pulling the job information is there. I just need to link it to Google Lens so they can just scan an inverted data plate. I've checked all that works. Like, what you can do if you take control over your own little thing, and you have in your head the gripes that you have with, softwares like, in my case, it was Simpro for the mobile, where it just didn't quite tick all the boxes that we needed it to do. So it meant we had other subscriptions for other things to fill those gaps. And suddenly, when we had that first conversation around the AI kind of app builder and everything, which had quite a decent reaction from, didn't we, in terms of other people really interested about that. I sort of thought, well, what can it do? And I haven't found anything that it can't yet, where it's kind of gone, sorry, Sam, I can't do that. It might take you a week to get it running absolutely sweet, but geez, it's so powerful. You can integrate ChatGPT into it, and it'll charge you like a penny per something like 1,000 questions or something. It's just minuscule amounts of money that could save you an absolute fortune in time over the course of your working life. And I'm just thinking that I am never going to see this app ever finished because I'm just going to be messing about with it forever. But I think you've rolled yours out as well, have you?
Yeah, like you say, it's very addictive, and you're not doing yourself justice there. You kicked this off in a big way through your own socials before the podcast chat, and we've got countless people now on this quest to try and develop their own apps. And you started, we've got the ESK community, if you remember, that all blew up, and there was people in there dropping messages and stuff. And
I need to go back to that, actually.
Yeah, it's died down. I think everyone went away and did their thing, and we've all just sort of got on with it, I think, now, and not maybe really shared the results of our labour, because we seem to have had a similar timeline. I took a bit of a break from it just because it was becoming so addictive, and I think I might have got divorced if I'd just carried on with it. So I had to force myself away from it for a little bit. And what I did find in that gap is the AI seemed to have improved drastically when you're asking it to do stuff. Yes. And it'd be quite frustrating where it'd have a go at doing it and maybe not quite do it, and you'd have to rephrase it a little bit, and it'd have another go and still not quite work. And these are some of the pain points, I think you put it, the last 20% kind of areas. Now, that doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. You sort of tell it to do something and it just does it.
I'm so happy you mentioned that, Mark, because that is the part that I missed out. I realised when I went back to it after about a month off how different the AI was and how much it had improved. And I use Replit, but I think you used, was it Base 44?
Base 44, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there, and neither of us are sponsored to buy any of them, so...
We wish.
Yeah, I wish. I've reached out. I haven't. Is that it had introduced this bit where it would actually ask you a question back. So beforehand, you'd tell it to build X, Y, or Z, it'd build it, and then if it wasn't right, it would ask you to check it within the conversation that you were having with this AI, but it would go all the way and build as to what it thought you wanted, even if there was maybe two options that you hadn't even thought about. It would build it how you just pick one, and that's frustrating because then you'd have to spend money to correct it in a way that you actually now know you want it to be. Whereas what I found when I went back to Replit was that it had started to, it would get so far, and when there was like a couple of options, it would ask me, and it would even write out which option, and you just click the button in terms of the one you wanted it to do, so that you were actually building it a little bit more efficiently. And so that last 20% was a nightmare beforehand, an absolute nightmare. You'd do one thing and it'd break something else, and you'd have to, oh, it was so frustrating. I've not had that, and that's probably the only reason why I've actually managed to release it now, because I was getting so frustrated with it before, because I just couldn't ever seem to. It was like, one step forwards, 5 steps back. It was just unreal. Whereas now I'm just walking at a steady pace with it. And I'm probably not too far off divorce at the minute, because I have been just like watching a film. And the biggest mistake was I put it on my phone. I'm there like that. She's like, "Who are you texting?" I'm like, "An AI." Trying to build this app. And I was like pausing the film, saying to Jess, my wife, "Do you know I can integrate Google Lens and ChatGPT into this app?" And she's like, "Trying to watch Avatar here, what are you on about?" So stuff like that it's really powerful, and it is really addictive. But my goal was to try and build a full CRM. And I have to admit, after I got past, when I had that, just before I had that break, I thought, I'm never going to do this. It's just, I'll be able to build the whole structure, but actually the little bits of code that it needs to do this, that, and the other, it's just not there yet to be able to do it. And I was really defeated with it. But then after that, like you mentioned, the improvement, I'm like, I'm going to build this CRM now, because I've already built a good chunk of it in the app. So, but yeah, sorry, mate, I jumped across.
No, you're dead right, and it's my experience as well. So that's a phrase questions where I'd ask it to do something, but in asking it, I'd say, "Don't change what you've also just done in doing that."
I've done the same.
Yeah, you can't actually tell it. You don't have to do that anymore. It kind of figures it out for itself. And we've had stuff that is really useful for the people going out doing site surveys, where it collates all that into the job file. We can produce handover packs referencing all the manuals and stuff. I used to be quite laboursome stitching PDFs together and whatnot. So there's real wins there. And then even ingesting invoices and receipts from a project, so it can be the guy's fuel receipts and little bits and pieces you maybe go and get from Toolstation or whatever that are accounted for in the bigger invoices alongside the projects. It draws all that in, the time you've spent on site, it knows our overheads and whatnot, and it'll figure out the profit margin for you. So it gives real visibility, like management accounts, I suppose, but on a project level basis. We found that really good. And then, like you've done for your engineers with looking at the weather and stuff, I haven't integrated the weather. That's a great idea. I'm going to be doing that. But we've done things like in the local area, what is there to go and do when you're staying away? Is there like stuff of interest that might be worth going to check out, and addresses to the hotels, booking confirmations for hotels as well. All of that information in one place rather than picking through emails when you go in to check in and stuff. And the funny story of that is we were staying down in Brighton earlier on this week, and I put all this into our app and told Matty and Nathan about using it. They're still defaulting to service, mate. And they'd messaged me about staying at this Miller and Carter where we were in Brighton. And I'd not had my glasses on. Matty'd sent me a picture he'd got off Google of the front of this hotel, and I was like, yeah, that's it. And then he rang me up and was like, "Are you in the bar in this place? Because we can't see you." I was like, "Yeah, I'm here. It's only small. Where are you?" And they'd gone to Miller and Carter in Shoreham, which is like 20 miles away, through Google, just putting Miller and Carter in Google and heading off. And I was like, "Well, if you'd gone on the app I've made for you, there's a link there to click, and it would have brought you right here." So it's kind of getting people to adopt it. We can make it and geek out on it, but if people don't actually use it, they won't see the benefits. So there's been a pain point there for them too. Now they know it's all in there. And same as you, we didn't set out to build a CRM. I was trying to link through API into ServiceMate just to keep that as a reassuring backstop, not really trusting AI, I suppose. But as a course of what we've done, we've made our own CRM, and we don't actually need ServiceMate anymore. We're still running the two together, but I think there'll come a point where we'll probably switch that off and just use what we've made.
Yeah, quite possibly. And for ourselves, I'm looking at the cost per month of SimPro, because we've skipped from an annual plan where we're locked in for a full year to a monthly plan. One, to give us the impetus to actually build our own, but also so that we're not locked in then for a full year and having to pay like heavy exit fees to get out of it when the new one comes in. But that temporarily has lifted our price. Again, gives me the impetus to do it, but it's not nice seeing the price going up by like 25% because we've moved to a to a monthly plan. And what you can do with it is unreal. And basically, whatever you think you would like to do with it, apart from it carrying the panels up on the roof and doing all that, you can do with it. And if you'd have asked me that just before I had that break, I'd have said, nah, you can't. It's just not there yet. Give it an extra couple of years. Actually, just give it a month. That's all it's been really since I stopped to where we are now, and it has completely changed. And I think the exciting thing is, I'm looking at, if I just break down kind of some of the subscriptions that we have. So we have the SimPro one, which was the on-site and the main CRM for us. We've got an online questionnaire which we can easily replicate and build our own one that works slightly better for us. We've got software like Dext, which is taking receipt information in. We've got hours, like a digital timesheet, which we pay for the guys, so they log in and log out on an app every morning, and they can see their time off in lieu or their holidays. All these things, they range from hundreds of pounds to pence or pounds per month that the business has to fork out for. And actually, whilst I've spent probably, I've done some other apps, I've probably spent maybe 500 quid on doing this app at the minute. But like I say, I've played around, I've gone like little offshoots and done other things, so it's hard to say exactly. But whilst I spend that, I'm thinking that is 1 month fee that I pay for, for some of these other softwares. Thinking, even if that tripled, I'm still easily in the money as a business to put this time in. Obviously, I've not charged for my time. It'd be quite a lot of that, but I'm doing this almost as a bit of a passion project as well, because it's just so interesting. And so all these little things are all, as my dad would say, holes in your bucket. And sometimes you've got and he literally said this to me. He said, "Well, January's a great time to look at all the holes in your bucket," and that's what we've been doing. And taking out that £100 a month there, that £70 a month there, that £600 a month there, or whatever else it is, that's real money. And as a business, you save every single penny of that. You actually gain a benefit of that. If you raise an extra 60 grand's worth of work, fantastic, but you get taxed on that. As long as you're making a profit, you're getting taxed on that work. If you save yourself £500 a month, you are saving yourself £500 a month. So we are looking at what we can do to actually keep that rolling without reducing the quality of what we do. Because I think it's very easy when you're a business to just roll with, I need that subscription for that. Yeah, well, I'll have to get that subscription to that. Well, I'm going to have to get that subscription for that. And before you know it, you've got 5-10 subscriptions that actually you don't necessarily need. And the other side of it is we hold in our own data as well, which is something that we don't have with these external softwares that are building their own database. That are, as soon as we stop that subscription, we're out of that completely.
Yeah, and you're trying to make yourself more efficient to convert more of those sales you're generating as well. You can be more competitive in that market space by reducing your costs. There's a lot of sense around it, and this stuff isn't expensive. We're conditioned for it, aren't we, from Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the rest of it. It's all a subscription model in everything now, and that's eked into the world of business where we're just used to it, and we think, it's £10 a month there, a little bit there. It's inconsequential of its own, but when you look at it, even in your own personal subscriptions, we've done it in our private life with like Disney Plus and Amazon and TNT and Sky Sports and all this. I think it's mad the amount of money you're paying out every month just to watch content on TV. So we're doing a bit too much of that, but it's the same in the world of business, and I think the AI stuff can help with that. Like the service mate plan, if you're a business of scale, I think you're in like 250 quid a month, and that's one of the more cost-effective options out there. Very much so, yeah. So it's still a lot of money. I appreciate when you're a one-person company, you maybe don't need that level of client management, but if you've got a business of scale, you very much do in this world. You need something there, and we've now got it doing all of that stuff where it's looking after receipts, it's looking after time management, and even silly little things as well that you maybe don't consider for your employees, where you need like records of vehicle maintenance checks and stuff. If they get pulled over by VOSA for inspections or something, the drivers need to be evidencing that they've done those vehicle inspections. And so we've got that baked into the app as well, where they're prompted every morning when they log in to tick a box to say they've checked the tyre pressures and depths and the windscreen and mirrors, and they sign it. And
Let me write this down.
yeah, well, that's just the way for them. If they ever get stopped and they're saying, well, can you produce that? It's like, it's there. It's on the app. You can't make people use it, but the opportunity for them to use it is there. And before that might have existed in the world of a PDF or a bit of paper. It's just trying to put as much stuff in there that's useful as you can to make people's daily work lives as easy as possible, and the client relationships off the side of that. I have got too carried away now where I'm looking at trying to reproduce designing solar systems on our app, which I think is a step too far, because I'm trying to ingest data sheets of every solar panel that exists and inverters and all the rest of it, just so I can design something that you can freely do somewhere else already anyway. So I think you can overstep the mark sometimes.
What I found when we're looking at, replacing a full CRM, that's one of our main focuses, because of the amount it costs us as a business. And I think we've had a look and I've gone, I could easily replace this, this scanning in receipts. Easy. I've already, created, got the API for the Google Lens. It'll just be exactly the same as that. I'm gonna go with that. And Jesse's like, yeah, but how much does that cost us a month? It costs us maybe like £4 a month. And you've got this other thing here that's costing us 5, 6, 7, 8, I can't remember, but I think I've shut it off in terms of in my own brain. Costs hundreds of pounds a month. That needs to be a focus. And so my main focus initially was the field management app, because I felt like that could be an easy win. And that was costing us something like £85 a month or something like that. So not huge amounts, but it was leading us into, it was kind of fixing two problems. One was that it was a business cost, but the other one was it didn't do what we wanted it to do, really, and the way that it presented the information to the guys on site. And just little things that, I wouldn't expect that to do for everybody, because it's just a niche little thing that I would like it to do. But you've got control over making a niche little thing, in your business. So it's focusing on what the pain points are in terms of the cost side of things. That's one of the biggest benefits you can do, but also functionality. If you can build that functionality that adds value, not a monetary value, but maybe I suppose it is a monetary value, a time-saving value, so the guys can easily access where their hotel is. And I've also thought about including where the local Screwfix is, CEF is, so that they can basically click a button and it'll route them to the nearest CEF based on their location, and all of that, which, I've already got the background stuff in there, because it already tells them the journey to the job. So all it's got to do is look at where the nearest CEF or Screwfix or Edmonton's is, and then they can click a button and they know where that is and bring up that information. Subcontractors, giving subcontractors access so they can upload their insurance documents, and all this stuff that the only barrier to it, yes, is money, but it's actually, it's not much at all to create this huge functionality. It's your own time to build it. And that's what I've found, because I'm literally spending every waking night. And this podcast has definitely triggered me as well, because I've got so many emails to look through. But when I go home, I'm definitely going to be on the app thinking, I'm going to integrate a vehicle check. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it reminds me of playing Championship Manager as a kid, where hours of your life just seem to evaporate while you're doing it. When you're talking to AI, you think you've been sat there for 20 minutes and it's actually been 2 hours.
Yeah.
It just seems to go. So you've got to be quite disciplined with that. I'm a bit better now, where I'll have it in the background, I'll ask it something and get on with something else and then go back to it. And I think because I've got it to the place where it's actually working, I'm less obsessed. But yeah, it's been really, really good for us. And the best part of it that I like the most, because I have massive guilt sending my team all over the country to work and being away from home, is the visual map we've got on our dashboard, which shows the next, I think it's 6 projects, with a zoomed out view of Britain and where we're going to be, numbered order, so they can click on it and see, okay, well, that week I am going to be working away, and this week we're going to be back local. And it's like a visual thing that I'm not just sending them all over the country every single week. I am trying to think about this a little bit and have them back home more often than not. And I don't know if they actually look at that and get any value from it. It sounds like they probably don't, if they can't even figure out where the hotel is from the app I've built for them. But yeah, that was one thing that I found was a really nice thing to have on there. And that was one of the smaller features of it, to be fair, just a big visual map with some numbers on it.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, part of me wants to build the whole time management side of things into it, just so that people actually start using it, because they physically are going into it every single day to check in and check out. But I think it's just a time thing. You know, we got to the point where the SimPro Field Management app wasn't working well for us, so we basically stopped using it. So we're now trying to get that habit restarted in terms of you don't necessarily have to ask us the question. Check the app first, because that's what it's there to be. So you can look at it at midnight if you want and see that over the next 2 weeks you've got 1 week working away. Like that's there to actually to give them some value. So yeah, but it's been it's been a good chat around the whole app side of things. We definitely need to revisit this as we get better and better at it.
We do. We've gone on that long. One of the cameras has just died a death, so we'll draw it to a close there, I suppose. And
yeah,
it's I think in summary, we're looking at trying to grow the volume of leads. If you grow in your business, that sales pipeline is so important, isn't it? But also trying to keep the holes in your bucket as small and limited as possible. As your dad's analogy, it's a great one as well. You want to try and look after all of that. And if you do both of those things together, you're making every best effort in your business. I don't think anyone can ask any more of you to offer value to your customers in going through that process, and utilise modern ways of tackling that with AI and stuff. And I'm sure we'll come back to this conversation again over the future. I know some of the other installers out there who are addicted as we are want to come and have a chat with us about this as well. So it'll be a growing thing, and it's a learning journey for us all who are geeky enough to want to go down that path. And yeah, definitely triggered a bit of insight again for me to go and innovate a few more things into my app that I've heard you talking about as well.
Yeah, same, likewise. So I'm really excited to see where it goes with that. And we're always told to embrace AI. It's it's the new industrial revolution style thing where it's already quite big, but I think it's hard to know as a tradie where to leverage it. And I think this is a really easy place to leverage it. It can't put you a solar panel on a roof or an inverter on a wall or a heat pump outside, but it can tell you where to do that. Talk to your customers, send them invoices, chase people, all for a fraction of the price as to what potentially some of these softwares are charging you.
Yep. And on that note, I think we'll end that one there. You can look at Sam as we go out because his camera's the last one standing. And if you've got any experiences of AI that you want to share in the comments, please do that for us. We're interested in
give us some ideas.
Absolutely. And if you've got any business tips and things that you want to share as well, or you want to come and have a conversation with us about business, we are all ears for that. We certainly don't have all the answers, but we have lots of the questions, and we're happy to share our own experiences. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And as Sam said right at the start, we do have special access to our ongoing content for people over on Spotify. I think it's $2.99. Considering it as buying as a coffee, it does help fund bits of work we do with the podcast. It'd be great to see more people joining up for that. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.